All right, good afternoon, everybody. My name is Greg Spaeth. I am the Chief Strategic Initiative Officer with E4. I want to just welcome everybody to our third Thursday today. There are a few housekeeping things. This webinar is set up so that everybody can actually interact with each other with their cameras and audio. So if everybody could actually start by staying on mute, there's a little button up at the right-hand corner of your screen. If you could do that for us, that'd be great. It is also set up so that if you want to participate, if you have a question, there's a raise your hand, or you can go into the chat feature and ask your question there, and we'll make sure that we address that during the call. We appreciate your participation in this. Today's third Thursday at 3 will be recorded and posted on our Marketing Central in our advisor portal and our E4 YouTube page. If you haven't subscribed to our E4 YouTube page, please do so, because you'll get this information and you'll get a notification about these type of events if you miss one. Today we're actually going to do a unique thing. We're going to actually walk through two real case studies that actually show how guaranteed issue disability insurance opportunities can actually come from very different directions. One actually started with an employer level relationship and a simple question about the gap analysis that was offered to them. The other started with an individual planning need, and it actually expanded to the right business owner questions that were asked. So I have both Brendon and Jessica on here. Brendon, our CEO at E4 Insurance Services, and Jessica is our problem child. No, I'm just kidding. She is actually our RVP here down in Savannah, Georgia. We were going to ask her to spell DI as part of the process, but we're not going to do that today because she passed that before we got on this call. All right, so let's start off with this. Why do we do disability insurance here at E4? And I really would like to ask that to Brendon as the CEO, the vision of our organization. If you could kind of expand on the philosophy, the vision that we have with that, that would be greatly appreciated. And then we'll dive into the two case studies.
Happy to, Greg. And when you say DI, disability income, that's what it all starts with. You need to preserve the income, for the individual. Everybody's plan is based on having income, and if you can't protect that, if you get sick or hurt and can't work, the rest of your plan isn't going to survive. So, we, like a lot of other firms like us, outsourced DI to, one of the other specialists out there. And I always said, jack of all trades, master at none. There is some complexity with DI. That being said, I realized when I looked at, what we had done in our business lines, we had done almost no DI. And we needed to bring in, that expert on staff so that we could make it a focus. And we did that 2.5 years ago, summer of 2024, with Brady Serold. And from there, it has become a focus and it has really grown. And I think with that, we're protecting a lot more individuals, families, and plans than we ever have before.
Awesome. You want to talk a little bit about Brady's background?
Yeah, Brady's background is vast. He started as a life underwriter. I think it was at Kansas City Life.
Yep.
Then moved to principal as an underwriter. Went to Standard, helped create their guaranteed standard issue, or GSI product at the Standard. Then became an individual agent and advisor for Guardian before going back into the corporate world once more with One America and not One America, Ohio National.
Ohio National.
Yep. Yes. Ohio National, and helped grow their whole DI division until they decided to shut it down. And that was Brady's last step in corporate America, and wanted to be with a firm that was independent and focused in what they were doing.
Awesome. Thank you for expanding on it. I think that's important for anybody that is either watching this video or on this call. Having somebody who is actually well connected in the industry, which Brady is, has,
Absolutely.
those type of connections matter when it comes to your relationship with your clients. And we're going to kind of approach that in terms of the cases that we were going to talk about today, is that how Brady gets involved with that. So for both you and Jessica, a little bit about maybe how we involved him in the cases, and ultimately you guys are going to talk about the positive outcome of these. So let's go ahead with the first one. This one was really more of a unique employer approach, right? It wasn't really about, talking about DI. It was a policy review. Brendon, I know you've got some of the case details on that. You want to kind of expand on that in terms of, the setup and how
Yeah,
this actually turned into a unique conversation?
I would be glad to. As I wasn't directly involved in this case, but it became talking fodder for E4 as a whole. And Greg, you really got to mute yourself. Your paper rustling is quite loud.
I will do that right now. Thank you.
Everybody else is going to appreciate it. So yes, became talked about within E4 circles, just because it, kind of was profound in the outcome. So we were doing a policy review on a 93-year-old, when it in and of itself sounds like a weird thing to do at 93, but he was healthy. He was, chairman of the organization. They had a life policy. It was approaching maturity, and wanted to know, what happened when he reached 95, assuming he was still alive. And so we were brought in to do, policy review. At that point, Dan, our president on the team, had asked the CFO if he'd ever done gap analysis on their group long-term disability plan. So what often happens is that the executives in the firm don't have an equal benefit as the rank and file. And so there's a gap in coverage, or you're reverse discriminating. And that was exactly the case. So he said, no, we haven't done that. And we said, well, we'd be happy to do a gap analysis for you free of charge. We brought Brady in as our expert. He got the plan documents, the census, and built, the analysis and presentation. From there, we found that there were 7 execs on their leadership team that were undercovered, and we were able to add a catastrophic benefit to 16 others. So by going in and doing policy review and just asking some of the right questions, it can open up opportunities. So as one of our advisors, Chris Anderson, says, it's like when your furnace breaks down, who do you call? Well, normally call the number that's, the sticker that's on your furnace. Same thing for a policy. If you can do an agent of record change, AOR, on existing policies, get your name on there. If they want to review, the first thing that it's going to do is call that name that's on there. So that's in essence how this case was set up.
So once we get the analysis, can you talk a little bit about, if they get the analysis, what is the next step in that? Is that going to Brady and team, and then what?
Yeah. So, Brady will help, present the analysis if you want. A lot of times, we're going to put together a report. It's pretty cut and dry, that these executives who are often in leadership and are the ones who make the decision on benefits are the ones that aren't covered. And, we review, make sure they understand that the coverage that they have. Oftentimes they think, well, no, the plan says it covers 60% of my income, and that's what they think. Or rather, regardless if they make 100,000 or 500,000, they think it's 60%. And in reality, a lot of these plans will cap out at $5,000 or $10,000, which, if you're making, $400,000 or $500,000 a year, doesn't get you close to replacing that income. And with, in this case, having, 7 execs were able to get guaranteed standard issue, so census enrollment. They don't have to go through underwriting, which is really great because executives at that point sometimes may not be insurable. And again, census enrollment. So it becomes very simple process for everybody to handle.
Awesome. And then I think the premium on this opportunity, just by asking that question or offering the analysis, I think was $11,000.
Correct. Yep.
Yeah.
11,000 of, and this was additional premium on their plan already. If they didn't have a plan, and this bank already had a plan, but again, their execs weren't covered completely. If they had no plan, it would have been substantially more. Awesome.
Yeah, thanks for sharing on that. So Jessica, let's go from your angle. It was more of a employer approach to the conversation you have. Can you kind of just set up the relationship, how the discussion came up of, offering this as a, benefit, a review, maybe set the table for the individuals that are listening on this call, and then I'll probably have some additional questions for you.
Certainly. It actually started with, it was two brothers that were working for their father, and they purchased the business from him. He retired. And when that happened, their income had gone up substantially. And they both had already purchased individual policies a few years earlier and to the max benefit that they could buy at the time with an individual carrier, which was like $25,000 a month. So they tapped out kind of the standard individual market at the time and wanted to look to increase coverage. And so I took it to Brady, and we looked at their income and what was left out there. And they were only eligible for about $750 more a month of individual coverage. So that wasn't even a meaningful benefit to go through full underwriting. And so we asked the advisor, could you go back and find if they have any executives? Is there a team of people that, that are with them at the company that we could consider covering? And then we, sent the template that we need to get a census. And through that, we realized there was 6 employees that were all making over $100,000, which qualified them to look at guaranteed standard issue coverage. And so at the end of the day, the result of those questions asked and the coverage that was placed, we actually put in, we had the advisor put in a group plan. He was the health insurance advisor, put in a group plan for them, which gave those 10 employees an additional $5,000 a month. And we double bonused it up so that it was not taxable to the 2 owners. And then we were able to go in and do a buy-up, which is the guaranteed standard issue product that we're talking about today, and put in an additional $5,000. Most of the employees were not eligible for that extra $5,000 because we're kind of got to the maximum of their 60% replacement of income. But the 2 brothers were eligible for the additional $5,000. So just by asking the right questions and not saying, 750 is all we could do, we were able to give each of the owners an additional $10,000 a month of benefit. And we structured it so that it was not taxable to them as they were paying the taxes on the premium. So that was a substantial change in coverage, going from, $1,100 a year to $120,000 a year. $11,000 to $120,000 was a pretty big, substantial change. And it just started with the conversation of looking to buy more individual and turned into an entire group that we covered. And just like Brendon said, census enrolled, they didn't have to go through underwriting like they would have for the extra $750.
And then again, I think you may have said this and I may have missed it, but how did this discussion get brought up? Were you going in specifically to talk to them about this?
Yes, we did a annual review with them on their, we just talk every year to say, hey, your disability is this what it is. And they were said, well, actually, we sold, Dad's not here anymore. We'd like to get more because our income's gone up, our shares have gone up, our revenue's up because Dad's off the payroll. And then they didn't have a future increase option on their individual because they had purchased the maximum benefit at the time. So that wasn't an option to have no underwriting with that.
So the big part here is that you actually proactively were doing a review.
Mm-hmm.
And I think that's the part that maybe from my vantage point was, if you're not asking for the reviews, right, it gets put on by the wayside. If you are asking for the reviews, it gives you an opportunity not only to uncover, an opportunity like in Brendon's situation, right? It was a life insurance review, but then all of a sudden became a more unique discussion. Same scenario for you.
Yeah, so it was just I mean, like I said, the advisor knew that they had maxed out their individual and they weren't in the position to buy any more life insurance and didn't need it at the time. He just did an annual check-in to say, hey, everything's good on your disability. Is any changes in the corporation? And that's where the conversation started from. There was no intention of a sale at all during the initial call to just check in with his client.
Awesome.
And
Are there
Greg,
any questions? Oh, go ahead, Brendan.
Yeah, I mean, you're commenting on doing policy review. One of the things I like to say in this business is that activity generates activity. And one of the best activities you can have is policy review. Worst case scenario, you come in and reaffirm what you did for your client and that they have the right plan and nothing's changed and they're still on a good course. That's worst case. Oftentimes, though, people's lives change, plans change, things happen, or you're just top of mind and, they may refer you to somebody. Nothing can go wrong by being proactive in doing policy reviews. And if there's one area advisors in our business, I think could elevate their game, that is it.
That's great. All right, Ronnie has a question. Was there, I just lost it. Hold on.
Was there any discussion of DI buyout for the business owners? I'm assuming that's your case, Jessica.
No, there was not at the time. This was what they were looking towards. They do have a buyout and they do have it sold. They do have it funded for life insurance, but they do not have anything funded for the disability buyout. Them being owners.
Opportunity.
Yes. Let me go put that in right now. No. No, but that's a great question, Ronnie, because most people do not fund a buy-sell with disability. They fund it, if they fund it at all, it's traditionally with term life insurance of some sort, but you don't very often see a buy-sell. They should be, but they're not often. So that is a great point, Ronnie.
And I just literally had a conversation with an advisor and two lawyers that their partnership agreement was very vague on their DI. And they need to fund it. It's another great example of, identifying the gaps inside any of their plan. And it's part of that review process that we have. We have Ronnie on staff to actually help with review of any type of agreement, business agreement. Matter of fact, the situation that I came out and met with the two lawyers, literally Ronnie was the one that was, raising questions for them. And we brought some suggestions for them. So if you're running into that, don't hesitate to get in contact with an RVP or one of us, and we will be more than happy to get you connected with Ronnie to have those discussions. Any other questions? Yeah, go ahead.
I would further expound on that. With the DI buyout, a lot of the trigger language in there is vague and loose, and who decides who's disabled, and a lot of times it's based on your doctor, but if you're telling your doctor, hey, I can do my job, it's good for me, gets me out of the house, but it's only 2 hours a day, but he says you're not disabled because you can do that. And your other business partner is having to pick up the slack and do all the work because you can only handle 2 hours a day. But yet you're getting 50% of the income because you're, equal owner to them. That creates resentment. So having the trigger language actually be the disability income policy and what it says, is the triggering events or if they qualify, it just alleviates that discrepancy. And we can help review that for you.
All right, I'm not seeing anything else in the chat. If you do want to come off of mute and ask a question for Jessica or Brendan, do so now or forever hold your peace.
Can I ask a question for Jessica?
Oh, I would love that. I know she may not, but yes, I think that'd be great.
How many purses are on that rack? And if you tried to carry them all, would you become disabled?
That is quite a possibility. There's a dozen or so up there. Just the season. We don't have seasons in Savannah very often, so I have to shake it up with something a different color every now and then. It's just hot all the time.
Brendan, I was thinking more, are all of them full with stuff?
Probably.
Probably. Awesome.
Jessica's a mom. They're all mom purses.
That's right.
Yes, there's a snack in the bottom of one of them. It's probably stale, but there's a snack in it, I'm sure.
All right, I'm going to wrap this up. All right, so today we talk about two cases, right? Guaranteed issue disability insurance opportunities, or income, disability income opportunities, can either come from either direction, right? An employer relationship or an individual planning discussion. And actually, in both of those cases, the role was to identify the opening, ask the right questions, which I think, in Dan's situation, he did. At the end, Jessica was asking it on the front side, and then bring those ideas or those conversations to us. And what we can do is help you, put a message or the right design and recommendation for them. And that's where the core value of working with E4 comes into play. We can actually help with that messaging. We've got one-pagers, we got data checklists, the whole analysis that Brady does, and then we can actually participate with the recommendation on your behalf. So whether you want us heavily involved, lightly involved, whatever that involvement is, we're there to help support you with your clients and their needs. We want to thank everybody for participating in this today with us on our third Thursday. The next third Thursday is June 18th, and it's going to be all things annuities, since June is actually annuity month. So keep an eye open for any emails that we're sending out to you, or we actually post on our LinkedIn page. Definitely make sure that you are following us on either one of those. And then if you have any questions, feel free. You can contact Jessica, Brendan, myself, or your RVP at E4. Everybody, thank you so much for participating, and make it a great day.